going on, everybody, and welcome back to the 9th episode of the Dive for the Pylon podcast. I'm your host, Cole Weintraub, and alongside my special guest, Luke Profaci. And hey, it's mock draft. It's a mock draft special. We're here to give our thoughts about tomorrow's first round, give our picks. And hey, I mean, it looks like a pretty damn good draft class, and I'm looking forward to it. Luke, how you doing?
Yep. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Draft week's one of my favorite of the year, to be honest. There's so many names, so much to talk about. It's exciting for every team, even the bad ones. So it should be fun. I'm excited.
Well, speaking of bad teams, I guess we'll just jump right into it because we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think this has been a no-brainer. The number one pick has been a no-brainer since really the beginning of the college football season. And that's Trevor Lawrence. I mean, like, when was the last time we had like a prospect thought that high? Like, I don't remember. Maybe
Luck.
Yeah. So Trevor Lawrence has been highly sought after ever since stepping into Death Valley. During his freshman season, he took home the national championship and completely burst out onto the scene. So, after that phenomenal freshman campaign, Trevor never looked back. At Clemson, I'll just give you a couple of numbers: 10,098 yards, 90 TDs, only 17 picks in 40 career games. His presence in the pocket's absurd. If you just watch film, you can just tell. He moves around extremely well. He can deliver the deep ball whenever he needs to. I mean, he was pretty blessed with the wide receivers that he's had over his, the couple of years. He got T. Higgins, Justin Ross. Those are just a couple guys. Rattle off some names. 18 rushing touchdowns. I don't know if you remember the play against Ohio State in the playoff game where he just took off and he was gone. So he's got that open field speed that nobody really talks about. And sometimes he tries to play hero ball. I think at some points during Clemson season, he got a little desperate, trying to make a big play, just trying to break them out of an early slump, which they eventually broke out of. And he'll make an unnecessary throw, but that's really every quarterback at some point. He's got good IQ, but besides that, if you look at Jags, although Gardner Minshew showed signs of being a successful quarterback in the NFL, you don't pass on generational talent. And to go along with that, the Jags have 10 picks in this year's draft, including 5 in the first 65. So that's a lot of depth right there. And they're going to do their best to build around Lawrence, and they're going to try to, take over that AFC South, just like they did in 2017 when they made it all the way to the AFC Championship. And do you know who the quarterback was?
Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles, baby.
Yes,
so,
sir.
Hey, Trevor could step in, do the job. They've got a good receiving core over there. Chenault, Keelan Cole. And
Keelan Cole signed with the Jets, actually.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Who else do they? No, you're good. I just didn't want to. Yeah,
no, totally. No. So, yeah. I mean,
maybe they'll address that later.
Maybe they will.
Forgot about that with their 25th. Maybe that's the route they'll go.
Yes.
No, but yeah, I mean, like you said, when he stays within himself, like you could tell in the Sugar Bowl this year, the semifinal, he was trying to get it all back at once, and it just wasn't working for him. Wasn't their night. But at the end of the day, his tools are going to project so well, and he's such a good prospect. I'm excited to watch him play. I wish it was with my Jets. I was hoping for that all year.
Yeah.
Tank for Trevor was trending every week on Twitter, but is what it is. Just excited to watch him play in general.
Yeah. Bringing up a couple other names because I completely botched Keelan Cole. You got DJ Chark, absolute spot, 6'3", 6'4", lots of speed. And then they actually picked up Marvin Jones in the offseason from Detroit, which was a bit surprising. I thought he may have gone to the Rams and followed Stafford. And then Philip Dorsett, who's shown, he's a decent receiver over the past couple of years, played for Brady. And they also signed Jamal Agnew, who's more of a special teams guy. But, the Jags are pretty set in that area, but they have a lot of draft picks. Maybe they grab Amari Rodgers, get Trevor's teammate.
Yeah, connection.
So who do you have going number 2 to the New York Jets?
Number 2, my New York Jets, I have Zach Wilson. Throughout the whole draft process, it seemed more and more likely that this is Douglas's guy. I mean, he has to prove it. He's 2-4 with 6 touchdowns and 5 picks for his Power 5 or top 25 teams. I love his arm talent, and he's very mobile in the pocket, which is good to see. He did only have that one good year last year where it was a lot of weaker teams, which is something to be concerned about. But his shoulder, he had shoulder surgery, which kind of derailed his sophomore season because he was playing at like 75-80%, I would say, which is when he played a lot of those good teams and wasn't at full health to show his talents. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think he projects well. I like the pick here. I've been on the Fields train for a while. I think he's very overhated. I did like him a lot, especially after his Sugar Bowl performance and how he stayed composed in the Natty. All of that. He big game like player, which is good. But I mean, it's the Jets guy. It's been pretty clear, and I hope it works out.
Yeah, I feel like it's at the point where the Jets are so desperate that they need a quarterback. Well, obviously they traded Sam Darnold. I don't know if Zach Wilson's really in past years a number 2 overall pick, but the Jets need him. The Jets need a quarterback, whether that's Wilson or Fields, and I think Wilson's their guy as well. I have Zach Wilson to the Jets, and I I don't know how much of an upgrade he is over Sam Darnold. I really don't. I don't know. What do you think? You think he's that much better?
I just think a lot of it is how Sam Darnold's been essentially going backwards in his first couple of years with the Jets, and a fresh scenery was needed. And he was also set to get paid a lot.
Yep.
Like his rookie deal was expiring, so they were going to have to pick up his 5th-year option and give him a good amount of money.
Yep.
And I think just resetting the clock on that would open up a new window for the Jets with all this draft capital they have, 2 picks this year and next year, to build around their new head coach and now quarterback.
Yeah, of course. I like the point that you made there with, resetting the clock. Darnold was on his way out regardless, most likely, unless they rework that contract somehow. And yeah, Wilson's fresh legs, fresh arm. And we'll see. I mean, that offensive
hopefully the shoulder holds up. You say fresh legs, like his shoulder could give out and it won't matter. But yeah.
I mean, that offensive line, I don't really know if they've, besides Becton, not really sure if they've done enough. But I guess we'll see. Hopefully his mobility will help with that, because Darnold was pretty mobile, but I feel like Wilson's got more of that.
Yeah.
So we go to the number 3 pick. And before I, dive right into it, we talked to the Sugar Bowl. So let me paint a picture for you guys. So there's around 6 minutes left in the second quarter of the Sugar Bowl. You played a stellar first half against one of the best teams in the country. You're up a touchdown, trying to drive down the field to extend your lead. 3rd down and long, and you're trying to make a big play. You escape the blitz and take off. You evade a few more defenders, and boom, you just took a helmet to the ribs, to your ribs, from one of the hardest hitting linebackers in the country, a guy that was kicked out of the national championship just a year ago. A minute after limping to the sideline, you come back out and throw a touchdown on the run to go up by 2 scores. If you weren't living under a rock during January, then you probably know who I'm referring to, and that's Justin Fields. I've heard talks about, the 49ers being between, North Dakota State quarterback Trey Lance and Alabama quarterback Mac Jones. No knock against those guys, but I think it's a smokescreen. When you're picking in a position like that, the number 3 spot, surrounded by, other talent, like I just said, you have Lance, you have Mac Jones, Wilson's right above you. If it comes down and it's going to get into the media, you're not going to want to, show your cards to the other teams. So I do, in fact, think that this is somewhat of a smokescreen. Justin Fields is a dog. He just is. He was a Georgia Bulldog, but he's just an absolute dog. He's tough as nails, and he's super exciting. He ran a 4.4 40. I know the knock against Ohio State quarterbacks, but this wasn't Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer quarterbacks, just name them off. Dwayne Haskins and Cardell Jones, JT. This isn't like Justin Fields is a completely different. This is an athlete. Dwayne Haskins, not much of an athlete. This guy is a great football player. I don't care what anybody says. You might hear about character. I mean, what the guy did in that game, put his body on the line just for a win. I think that says it all. And even if his passing doesn't completely translate to the NFL, I think that the Niners can implement more running packages for Fields. which will always, have the defense on their toes. And, that team, the Niners offense have a lot of weapons, Mostert, Ayuk, Samuel, Kittle, just a bunch of guys that, are very versatile, especially Samuel. You can run him reverse plays, throw a deep ball down the field. I think just adding Fields to that bunch just makes them that much better. And it's not Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is boring. Justin Fields isn't. So bring in Justin Fields in San Francisco. One last thing to note: Justin Fields' second pro day, Kyle Shanahan's in attendance. He made a slight tweak. If you go back and watch Justin film at Ohio State, he played with his right foot forward during his pre-snap, but at his pro day, he led with his left foot. This is very interesting because before 2015, Matt Ryan played with his right foot forward, and then when Shanahan came in 2015, Ryan transitioned to his left foot. So I know this isn't anything crazy, but I felt like it was worth noting. Shout out William McFadden for that piece of information. But I just feel I've always thought Fields to the Niners was a good pick. I feel like the Jets have been set on Wilson for a while, so I feel like right now I'd like to see Fields go to the Niners.
Yeah, I agree with you. My pick of Trey Lance was more what I thought they were leaning than what I thought they should do. I think the Justin Fields slander has been unbelievable. I don't agree with it at all. They talk about character and stuff. There's very few players coming out of college where they have the it factor. He's the definition of the it factor. This is the second time he's come back from injury and balled out. He did it against Michigan his sophomore year too. Right. So I agree. I think he would be a great fit. Exactly. Like the thing you were saying about they were knocking his throwing, the Niners offense is built through the run game.
Yep.
And in between the tackles. And I think that fits what Fields can do, even if his throwing doesn't translate like I think it will. I still think it will.
Yeah.
But even if it doesn't, I just think it's a perfect fit. I went with Trey Lance based off Shanahan saying that Jimmy G would start this year and the rookie would be sat and developed. And I think Trey Lance is the most raw and needs the most development for sure. He has the tools to be a stud with a very high ceiling, but easily the lowest floor out of the top 5 QBs, no question. It reminds me of Josh Allen a little bit, where he went to a school with not as competitive of a conference, and you didn't really know if the competition was there, but his physical traits are there. So that's where I'm at Lance. But if they take Fields, I think that's the best choice for them, particularly with all the weapons they have.
Yep. Coming from a Clemson fan, that was more of a seeing him do it against Clemson, wasn't happy at all. Also didn't think James Skalski should have been removed from the game. That was another story. But when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, that was gutsy. Like he went out and did something that not a lot of guys. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is doing that. So yeah, I like where you go with saying that Trey Lance has the highest ceiling because he does, but also the lowest floor. He could be Jamarcus Russell or he could be, Josh Allen right now. And there's only one Josh Allen, but Trey Lance could get there. So I let off with the Niners pick. So who do you think Atlanta goes with at the number 4 pick?
Yeah, so in my mock, I had Trey Lance at 3rd. So then I had the Falcons at 4 taking Justin Fields. I could see a trade up here for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like the Falcons, if they don't go QB, would be a good candidate to trade back and gain assets because if they should go into a rebuild. Their defense is atrocious. Matt Ryan's aging. Julio's aging. And I think trading some of those top guys for capital and building the future around potentially Fields, which I think would be a good idea for them, and Ridley and the other pieces. The defense is just terrible, and they have to build that through the draft, and gaining capital will help that come through quicker. I see 3 scenarios with the Falcons: is take Fields and rebuild fully, which I think they should, and then trade back and draft defense or O-line to gather assets while keeping their core together, which also isn't a bad play if they think they're in a window where they could win in the next couple years. And then taking Pitts, which would be just fully in denial that they can't win now with the defense that they have and the flaws on their team. And taking Pitts would be the flashiest pick out of like this next core group of players that'll go in the draft. but I don't see it as practical for them.
Yeah, you make yet another good point there. I've been reading a lot lately about Pitts, most that's probably going to happen. Um, I don't necessarily agree with it, but, Matt Ryan's got 2 more years on his contract. Uh, and you want to maximize those 2 years because if you look at it, like Matt Ryan's still a good NFL quarterback. Yes, you could go trade him to a team that's ready to win. Just like Brady, this is Tom Brady we're talking about, but Brady went to a team that was ready to win. He stepped in, brought him to a Super Bowl. Matt Ryan could go get traded to, pick a team, you name it, that's in a position to win. They could go far. I mean, he was what? 3 touchdowns in a Super Bowl. I mean, he's still a good quarterback. He's won an MVP. Yeah, he's aging, but I went with Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts is a generational talent. I think there's 2 generational talents in this draft. I think you got Trevor and you got Pitts. I just don't see how either of those guys are busts. I don't want people to screen record this when Trevor Lawrence, if there was 40 picks in his rookie season, but I think Kyle Pitts is a guy, like, how could this guy not be good? I mean, 6'6", can run what did he run, a 4.4, something ridiculous.
Yeah.
I don't see how, and this isn't Evan Ingram. Like, that Evan Ingram was 6'3". They called Evan Ingram a matchup nightmare on draft night. Kyle Pitts is the definition of a matchup nightmare. 6'6", 240 pounds. He reminds me of Darren Waller. Waller was, wide receiver by trade, but then slowly, built up his physique. We'll talk about someone who needs to build up their physique later. But yeah, Waller built up his physique, got solidified his blocking, I guess. And Kyle Pitts is coming into the draft, decent blocker, incredible speed, route running, awareness, you name it, he's got it. And I'd be surprised if Kyle Pitts wasn't a top 4, top 5 tight end in a couple of seasons. I mean, this guy has literally everything to be a top tight end, pass catcher, whatever you want to call him. And I think this would make an immediate impact to that Falcons offense, whether it would be beneficial now or kill their long term. I think it's pretty obvious, but yeah, not the best pick there for them, but I just think that's where they're going to go. So,
yeah.
So
I mean, there's a very real possibility he's the second most impactful player in this draft, especially in his rookie year. But I'm just saying, over the course of his career, he's unreal. And I think any offense he goes to, he will make an immediate and long-term impact on.
Of course, I agree. And, tight ends, defense, tight ends, defense. I mean, what do you value more? Maybe Atlanta goes with the tight end. I don't know. So we go to the number 5 pick. I have Penei Sewell going here. And really what it boils down to is a year ago, Cincinnati gave the keys to Joe Burrow to lead that franchise. Probably the most depressing franchise to root for, the Cincinnati Bengals. Just terrible. Burrow ended up getting hurt, partly because he had nobody blocking for him. And you would think in the offseason, besides the draft, that Cincinnati would go out in free agency and try to sign a big guy like Joe Tooney or Corey Linsley or somebody. But they decided to sign 32-year-old Riley Reif. I don't think that's really going to do much. You could put him at that right tackle spot right now and just call it quits on the season, because that's really what it is all about. Penei Sewell is a guy that, sure, he didn't play last year. He's going to make an immediate impact to that team, to that offensive line, to Joe Burrow, to everybody on that offense. And it is a tricky pick, I'll admit. You got Jamar Chase, who caught passes from Joe Burrow. I don't want to give away his stats right now, but I just will. 1,780 yards, 21.2 yards per catch, 20 touchdowns, 84 catches. Ridiculous. I know that's tempting. You lose A.J. Green in the offseason. Not that A.J. Green was doing anything to start with. You still have Boyd. But I think Sewell, it just outweighs what you need. You need Sewell. He's 6'6", 330 pounds, adds durability. and it's going to all in all prevent Burrow from getting cracked by opposing defenses. I know Kyle Pitts is another guy that I believe you have there. Sorry to spoil that, but I don't think sure that might help. I don't know if it helps immediately because at the same time you still don't have anybody blocking for Burrow. Like Burrow's not Lamar Jackson. What do you think?
No, I agree. I do. You make very good points. I just think they have Jonah Williams, who I think they could put on his blind side. He's a stud out of Bama.
Yep.
And then if they believe in Riley Reef, they could stick him at that right tackle and hope for the best. And in my scenario, I have him taking Pitts at 5 because they already have Boyd and Higgins. So I don't think taking a receiver this high is the most smart, efficient thing for them to do. I think they could address that in a later point or later years through free agency and whatnot. But if they added Pitts with those two receivers and a QB like Burrow, I think their offense would be multidimensional. They could just add so much. They could open up the playbook, do so many different things with Burrow. And I think if they believe in these two tackles, then I think this would be the smart pick over Chase. I just don't see drafting Chase is like getting them better at something they're already good at when they have things that they're not good at. And that's not smart to do when you have a franchise quarterback like this. So yeah, that's where I stand on that.
I agree. Yeah, tight end right now, you have Drew, free samples, and CJ Uzama, who's been there for like 5 years, and he's been their tight end. Maybe like Jermaine Gresham's been there, and Tyler Eifert, who couldn't stay on the field. So they really haven't had a tight end in quite some time. Well, ever since Tyler Eifert maybe had that one healthy season.
Yeah, that one good year.
Yep. So that one good year that everyone was trying to ride on, he'd be like a fantasy beast going into.
Oh, he was. Oh my God.
So I got a little off topic. I just think Sewell's a guy that you need to draft. I've been saying it ever since I saw Burrow go down against, I believe it was Washington. They just need to draft Sewell, in my opinion. So who do you have Miami taking with the 6th pick, traded from
at
Philly?
6? I have Sewell falling to Miami at 6, which I think if this happens, this would be a blessing for the Dolphins. And kind of the same way you're talking about Burrow, protecting him in the future, I have that for Tua because they're more complete roster at the moment, and I think they're closer to competing with the great defense they have and some offensive weapons, which I think they'll add another later. But yeah, you throw Sewell in the mix, get Tua some time, get him comfortable in the pocket. I think the Dolphins could be looking at a great next 3-4 years.
Yeah, I mean, wherever Sewell goes, he's going to make an impact. Like, I wish he would fall to the Giants because I'm a big Giant fan at 11. It just won't happen. So I personally have Jamar Chase going to the Dolphins at 6. I know you added Will Fuller in the offseason to go along with Parker, but it just makes sense to me because Parker's not going to, be a wide receiver. He's not a wide receiver, in my opinion. He's more of a high value wide receiver 2. Yeah, I think drafting Chase is the right decision. And throughout the whole offseason, there was rumors surrounding Tua and the Miami Dolphins. Do they trust him? I mean, sure they trust him. They drafted him 5th overall, coming off that gruesome injury. Was it hip?
Hip. Yeah,
Hip.
he got cracked. Yeah.
Right. So they obviously trust him. I know they pulled him out on that like Christmas game and like put in Fitzpatrick, but Fitzpatrick's a veteran. They can do that. He went 6-3 as the starter for Miami. I'd say that's pretty good for a 22-year-old. And considering all eyes are on him, I think bringing in the Blitnikoff 2019 award winner would definitely bring his game to a whole new level. And just think about it. You got Chase, you got Parker, you got Fuller. I mean, Preston Williams, if he stays on the field, he's pretty decent. And Mike Gesicki, who I think before Kyle Pitts, ran the fastest 40-yard dash from the tight end. So you have a lot of speed. You have good hands. I think that really helps out too. Maybe you get a little run game going. I know this draft class, pretty deep running backs. Like you can maybe go Chubba Hubbard in the 3rd round, or maybe Trey Sermon, or I don't know if I believe Master Teague's out of the draft now. But adding a guy like Teague to go along with Gaskin, something like that. That offense could be really good. The defense looks decent, and I think you go defense later in the draft as well. So I think Chase to the Dolphins would work. But I see where you're going with Sewell there.
Yeah, for sure. I set it up and have him getting a weapon later. So I'm on the same page as you in terms of getting them a weapon.
Yep.
But I think they can get a guy at 18 that would be a stud too, while adding Sewell to protect too, especially with the injury history like you mentioned.
Gotcha. So
Yep.
did I ask you who was going 6, or is this my turn? I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
So going number 7 to the revamped Detroit Lions, capital L on the Lions, Devontae Smith, Heisman Trophy winner. The Lions, like I just said, are completely different. Jared Goff is now the starting quarterback, and Brashad Perriman and Tyrell Williams are now their top 2 wide receivers. Not good at all. So the Lions need a reliable pass catcher. I know they got Hawkinson. That's another story. They need a reliable wide receiver, and I don't think they can go wrong selecting the Heisman Trophy winner. People complain about Devontae's size. Like, I know you look at him and you're like, this guy probably won't last too long, and I don't agree. The guy can get bigger and stronger throughout his career. He's not like, sure, he might be done growing like, height. He can still hit the weight room, eat a couple cheeseburgers and get back to where, you might think he needs to be. I think the strength will improve as he goes on, as he goes through his career. He's super quick, sticky mitts, and he just has great football IQ. And he'll be surrounded by a bunch of speedsters. I know, Brashad Perriman's not the most, attractive wide receiver too, but he is fast. Tyrell Williams is fast. They also added special teamer from Tennessee, Khalif Raymond, who's also super quick. So surrounding Smith with a bunch of guys who are quick, just like I know Jalen Waddle is much better than Brashad Perriman, but Jalen Waddle and I think Mechie, those guys are burners. Same with Ruggs. I think that'll be very beneficial for Smith. He'll be able to get more single coverage because if you're going to double him or bring a safety over the top, it might, lead to a Brashad Perriman breaking free, which would be embarrassing. And I don't think teams want to be exposed to that. So Jared Goff needs weapons to succeed. He's on, I think, 2 or 3 more years on his contract, but they can get rid of him if they choose to. I believe it's like a team option. I kind of forget the details. It's been a while, but nobody could stop this guy at Alabama, and I think secondaries will have trouble containing him in the NFL. So, who do you have going 7th to the Detroit Lions?
For sure, yeah. I have Jamar Chase going to the Lions at 7. This is the ideal situation for them. The number 1 receiver on the board falls right in his lap. This doesn't take away anything from Devontae Smith. I actually think his size and attributes translate perfect to today's NBA or NFL with the running gun. Like they're just going to be sending him down the field. And but yeah, I don't know. I think with Devontae Smith, he can gain that weight. He really can. I think getting up to 180 should be no problem. There isn't really much left to say about Chase, though. You pretty much said it all. He's a beast, and I think this would be a good starting point for the Lions in terms of revamping their offense.
Yeah, I mean, we're on the same page with wide receiver. In your case, Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is the better receiver, even though he didn't even play last year. I mean, you just saw him at his pro day. He looked pretty damn good. He looked
he's a freak. Yeah.
He's a freak. And, another bad Clemson flashback when he absolutely cooked A.J. Terrell for like 250 yards in the national championship game. Not a fond memory.
Yeah.
And then A.J. Terrell goes on to get drafted 14th overall by the Falcons. So maybe it's the Falcons, getting screwed up in the head. I don't know what it is.
And he was number 1 over Justin Jefferson, who was a breakout player this year. So if he's 1 over him, I mean, that just shows you how much he can make an impact on the field.
Yep, and Marshall. Oh, and to go back to the to your point with Jamar Chase, or no, you didn't have Jamar Chase going to the Bengals, but Jamar Chase, they actually brought back Thaddeus Moss for Joe Burrow. So that's another tight end. Maybe Thaddeus Moss is a sleeper fantasy pick. Who knows? Maybe I'm bleeding my cards right now. Probably shouldn't be talking. But we moved to the number 8 pick. Who's your selection at number 8 for the Panthers?
I think the Panthers are a heavy candidate to trade back with their QB of the future and Sam Darnold. So I think if Slater's available, they'll probably go Slater at 8. Or if they fall in love with one of J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain, they could go him. But I think Slater would be the pick to start rebuilding their offense for the future.
Yeah. So I actually really like the Panthers defense. It's super young. You got like Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns, Derek Brown. So yeah, adding young defense could be beneficial because you look at their offense. They have probably one of the more interesting teams heading into 2021. And today they traded their quarterback. Well, who knows who was going to be the quarterback, but Teddy Bridgewater. I think the guy just wants to get away from Sam Darnold. When he was on the Jets, they traded him in training camp to the Saints. So maybe there's a little beef there. Maybe probably not. But they traded him to the Broncos. And this leaves Sam Darnold under center, like you just said. But their weapons are quite impressive. Christian McCaffrey, arguably the best halfback in the NFL. DJ Moore, who continues to impress. He's having 1,000-yard seasons over and over and over. Flies very under the radar. And Robbie Anderson, who for some reason the Jets didn't re-sign last year, but he did have a career year. Sorry to rub it in your face. He did have a career year last season, and he's reuniting with Darnold. He did have that really good, I believe it was 2018 season with Darnold. I think he hit close to 1,000 yards, scored a bunch of touchdowns. So this offense has one need. You look at their tackles, not looking very good. One could argue that Slater is even more talented than Sewell. That's up for another debate. I mean, Slater did 33 reps of 225 pounds. So that's pure strength. He kind of reminds me of Quentin Nelson. I know he plays tackle, but Quentin Nelson was known for being that guy that, workhorse in the gym. And, it really translates to the field. You can just see him now, doing keg stands in the end zone. But this is Darnold's year to either solidify himself as a starting quarterback in the National Football League or continue on this downward path. His offensive line in New York was Swiss cheese, but coming over to Carolina, you got interior guys. I believe Paratus is the center, and then you got like Taylor Moton. Let me double check. But yeah, they have good interior linemen. Why don't you add Rashawn Slater and add to that talented offensive line? So.
Exactly. When you bring in a new QB like that with the weapons around him, you got to do everything you can to see what you got, so if you need to move on or however else to handle it. And I just think, especially with the value on the board, I think this is the smartest pick for them in the future, their team.
Yep. So Paratus is the center, in fact.
Okay, there you go.
So number 9, I believe this is my turn. So I am going with Trey Lance. And like I mentioned before, Teddy Bridgewater was traded to the Denver Broncos. I think we were talking about it before briefly, but I think this has zero effect on Trey Lance getting there. Originally, I was thinking, all right, Bridgewater's got a couple more years in this deal, but I looked more into it, and it's actually only one. And, only 1 year. He's gone after next season, and he's only there to push Drew Lock. Drew Lock is a guy that we've seen him play well, but we've also seen him play terrible. He's very hot and cold. And it's really like when he plays super well, it's like, oh, he's their guy. And then when he plays really bad, it's like bench him, bring in Case Keenum. I know Keenum's probably not there anymore, but they're just trying to evaluate what he has this year. If he has nothing, then they'll just move on to Lance, maybe get rid of him, maybe trade him, maybe another change of scenery will be beneficial for Drew Lock. But Trey Lance, he's very talented. We talked about him earlier. Very strong arm, good athleticism. You know, reminds us of Josh Allen. Throw on the run, and I don't know if you've seen like film with him like running with the ball, but he's like a freight train. He probably
Big
won't be
boy.
doing. Yeah, he's a big boy. He probably won't be doing that in the NFL. Probably won't be smart unless he can just like start taking these hits like Big Ben. But I think Trey Lance could translate into the NFL well. I know he plays in the rough conference and he played one game last year and he did not look good at all. But Denver's good receiving core and a solid offensive line. I think he's a great fit in that offense, and he's too good to pass up at 9.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If Lance is there at 9, they better take him, and even could go as far as trading up at some point to make sure they secure him. But in my mock, I had Trey Lance going 3 to San Francisco. So I just went Parsons here. They have a very solid defense, but this would bring them to the next level. You would get to learn behind Von Miller, another generational defensive talent, and I think that could help bring the potential out of them.
Yep.
With Mac being the only QB left on the board, I agree they do need a QB, but I don't think Mac Jones is worth the play at 9.
Nope.
I just don't see it being very much of a difference, kind of similar to how we're talking about Darnold and Locke.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to take Mac, you might as well just give – if you're going to take Mac, you might as well just give Locke one more year and see what you got. But, yeah, Parsons – I'm a big Parsons guy. I think he's going to go wherever he goes, and he's going to play right away and make a lot of great plays for them. And I think building through this defense would put them on track to compete, hopefully, with the Chiefs in a couple of years. We'll see.
Yeah, I have Parsons going a few spots later. We'll talk more about that later. But, Parsons is a guy, he can either come off the edge or he can be very aggressive, slide sideline to sideline. At number 10, Luke, who do you have going to Dallas?
So I know they're going to go DB, I think. I went J.C. Horn. His stock from pro day, or I guess since the season ended to now, has probably risen more than any other player on this board, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he passed Surtain. I think they're both great players, but just all the buzz I've seen around J.C. Horn makes me think that the Cowboys are going this way. Another thing I saw was the Stephon Gilmore trade rumor with the Pats to potentially move up. And I think if they're willing to give up this number 10 pick for Gilmore, then they would definitely go DB if that didn't work out. And I think J.C. Horn would be a really good pick for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys.
Yeah. Quick disclaimer: we're not really putting trades through. If we were, it might get a little more interesting. I stay with the cornerback. I've been on the Patrick Surtain train for a while. I saw him play in college. Well, voice crack. Sorry. He was playing against, teams like LSU, and he held up pretty well. At Bama, only allowed a 68.4 quarterback rating in the SEC, like I just said. Great ball skills, awareness. Those are two of the most important traits for cover corners going into the league. And Dallas is always looking to improve that defense, whether it means they're going to get better or worse. It just always seems like they're never really going on the up tilt. It's just always like very just stagnant. And just never seem to improve enough. And Surtain has all the tools to step in right away and help Dallas. And last year, another thing, they drafted Surtain's teammate Trayvon Diggs. Camaraderie is key in the defense, and especially communication in the secondary. And selecting Surtain would bring all of that together. They also lost Chidobe Awuzie, which gives another reason to draft the stud corner. So they're in a win now mode. You saw the contract they gave Dak. You saw the contract they gave Zeke for absolutely no reason last year. I know a lot of Cowboy fans who'd rather have Pollard be playing, but that's another story. I think that they need to draft Surtain here, or a corner, J.C. Horn. That works too, because that secondary is looking thin.
Yeah, it's clearly their most glaring need, and I think whichever way they go, I think they're both studs. They pick your poison. They're both going to be really good, and I think they should be excited with where they're at.
Totally. All right, so at number 11, talked about them a little earlier, I have the New York Giants. taking Micah Parsons. I think as a Giants fan, I really want the offensive lineman. I really want Rashawn Slater to fall to 11. If it was Devontae Smith, I wouldn't be opposed. If it was Jalen Waddle, I'd be pretty upset. But we're not here to talk about the Giants. Well, right now we are, but besides his off the field issues, he's the most fierce defensive player in the draft. Uh, he's a linebacker. Usually, linebackers will have more of an impact than a corner like Surtain or Horn. Parsons just a great player. And the Giants, I don't remember the last time they were really good at getting to the quarterback. It must be like the 2015, 2016 season with Pierre Paul and Olivier Vernon, because that was really the last time they were just like getting right to him. So they bring back Leonard Williams to chase after opposing quarterbacks. Micah Parsons, he's very versatile. You can play him in the box, you can put him on the edge, and he'll make an immediate impact. I think the Giants need him. He ran a 4.36 in the 40. That's ridiculous. I mean, just that it's like it kind of reminds me of how I was thinking last year. I really wanted the Giants to draft Isaiah Simmons. And this is not the same thing, but Simmons was very versatile. You could put him at safety or you could put him at linebacker. Right here with Parsons, you could throw him on the edge. You could play him in the middle. Very good coverage. So, I mean, when you run a 360, you better be good at covering because I don't know how many tight ends are going to be burning you at 4.36. And yeah, the Giants just need more speed on defense. Their secondary is good. Their secondary is one of the best, actually. But yeah, the other guys, the linebackers, you got Blake Martinez, you got Leonard Williams, but adding a guy like Parsons, I think that's very good. And Dave Gettleman loves him. Might be a smokescreen. I just don't know with Dave Gettleman at this point. So I have Parsons going 11. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the mindset where with the Giants, they're going to go best player on the board, especially after the addition of Adoree Jackson to pretty much seal off their secondary. If Parsons is there, I think that's something you got to take. The upside on the defense would be stellar for them and competing with Washington football team, who also has a really good defense for that division. But with Michael Parsons gone, I have the Giants going Devontae Smith. Gettleman loves him. Big upside pick. I think he translates very well and could fit right in behind Golladay and be an immediate impact and a great number 2 right away.
Oh, that Giants receiving core. I mean, I'm not even going to bring up Evan Ingram's name, but when you call him a 5, I mean, that's pretty decent. And Kyle Rudolph and Shepard and Slayton. And then you bring in Golladay and Devontae Smith. See, this is a year, to go a little off topic, this is a year where the Giants need to evaluate Daniel Jones. This is kind of why I wanted Rashawn Slater, because in years past, Daniel Jones has no time in the pocket. He's just letting go of the ball, whether it's to the other team or off Evan Ingram's hands. He needs time. They have the weapons to be good right now. The Giants need a lineman here, but I just think Parsons is a guy that could really help them in the future and could be a key piece of the defense for the next 10 years. It might be a little exaggerated, but that's just how I feel about it. Who do you have? This is a weird one. It was from Miami via San Francisco. The Eagles are picking at 12. Who do you have going to the Eagles?
Yeah, I have Jalen Waddle. And honestly, I've been talking a lot about immediate impact, but I don't know if I see that with this pick at 12. I think they need to surround Jalen Hurts with something for any chance of success, but I personally don't like him a ton as a prospect, especially at this stage in the draft. I think he should be more in the late teens, in my opinion. But the Eagles, they got to do what they got to do. They botched the Jalen Reagor pick last year, and they have to keep trying until they give their QB something to work with. They're just going to be in a revolving door like they were last year.
Yeah, I have Jalen Waddle going there as well. And it's just an example of the little engine that couldn't. I mean, that's really what the Eagles are right now. In the wide receiver department, you have Jalen Reagor, 5'11", Greg Ward, 5'11", and Jalen Waddle, is he even 6 feet? I don't believe so. He is 5'10", so even smaller. I don't really know how you run an offense like that unless you're the Baltimore Ravens. Um, I just how is that like if Devontae Smith though, that'd be a great pick for them. I know he's only 6 foot, but he plays bigger because of his rate catch radius.
Very true.
Um, Jalen Waddle is a pipsqueak. I'm sorry, he just is. He might end up being Tyreek Hill, sure, but I just don't think it helps the Eagles right now. Even though they need a receiver, I don't.
Are the Eagles going to be the worst team in the NFL this year?
It's possible.
Them and the Lions,
yeah,
like really bad. I didn't realize that the Eagles were in that category. Like, oh my God, I don't know how they're going to win games. Honestly,
I don't either. Oh well, do they even have Oh, they have Fulgham too. I guess Fulgham popped up onto the scene really in fantasy.
Yeah, exactly.
Finished with 40 catches, only 4 touchdowns. I guess that's their like big receiver, but he's not. He's nothing special. Like
he had a couple game TD streak where it was like he was getting the yards and the TDs, so he was a huge asset in fantasy and on the field. But once the TD stopped, it was just like 6 catches, 80 yards, no touchdowns, which is great, but you need a lot more than that to consistently play.
Yep. And I honestly, like, if I were in the Eagles' shoes, I would trade back and try to get like a Bateman or is Elijah Moore taller? I'm pretty sure. I think he's like 6'2".
He's a slot. He might be taller though. Let me look.
I know. Oh, Marshall too. Marshall's like
Oh no.
So, yeah.
Elijah Moore is 5'8", by the way.
Wow. All right.
I just want to get that out.
Honest, I've never seen him play before. But yeah, I feel like the Eagles could be a team that trade back and get a bigger, heavy set wide receiver than drafting another 5'11" guy. I'm done talking about height for the Eagles. Let's move on.
No, yeah, I agree. I think they're in a lot of these teams, like with the Cowboys, Broncos, I feel like they all lined up in really good spots for their needs. The Eagles are in such an in-between stage where if they stick with this pick, I don't think anything they do would be worthwhile of the 12th overall pick.
I totally agree. It's just looking rough for the Philadelphia Eagles at this point. Who do you have? Or I believe this is my turn, actually. Sorry. I have at 13 the Los Angeles Chargers. We're going to pick things up a little bit. Christian Darrisaw. He's very interesting in my opinion. 25 games at Virginia Tech, 7 sacks, only like 15 hurries, 0 sacks in 2020. PFF gave him a 95.6 rating, which I believe was like the best or second best. He's got all the intangibles to be a good offensive tackle. And the Chargers, kind of like Burrow, but without the injury, really just pure talent. They need to protect Justin Herbert. And yeah, I think Darrisaw is the move there. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, my draft, I actually have Surtain falling to 13, which is crazy. If he falls to 13, like I was looking at this and it's kind of the situation he's one of the guys you have to take at 13 in terms of value. Yep. But other than that, I was in between Darrisaw and Vera Tucker. And I just think Tucker is very versatile, and I think that could be something that the Chargers would like because they don't have the most makeshift or what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's kind of a different offense. I feel like no one else really runs the offense they do. Right. So having a guy that could play multiple positions would be valuable for them enough to take that 13. But both of them, I like both of them.
I would say that the Chargers are a pretty dink and dunk offense.
Yeah.
With Keenan Allen. And then the occasional heave to Mike Williams. But yeah, I mean, they pick up Corey Linsley in the offseason, which was a great pickup in my opinion. They have Matt Filer at left guard and Bulaga, who's like ancient at this point. Oh wait, no, he's not. 32 years old. Sorry. I just feel like he's been playing for such a long time.
He's one of those.
Yeah, he's just one of those. So bringing in a guy like Darisaw to step in over Trey Pimpkins, I think that would be I think that'd be a move for them because their offense. You got Herbert, Eckler, Justin Jackson, and Josh Kelly in the backfield, with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, Jalen Guyton, and Jared Cook, new acquisition. You look at their defense, not great. I like where you're going with the corner because at that point, he's the best available, and your corners, your best ones, Chris Harris or Michael Davis, who's more of a special teams guy, but Chris Harris is 31, a shadow of the player he was a long time ago, once upon a time. So yeah, it's either Darisaw or it's best available defense for me.
To build off that, did you see the leaked trade screenshot on Twitter?
I did.
So that makes me think even more. That proves our point that they're eyeing defense because moving up that 2 spots, it doesn't look like a lot, but the 2 defensive prospects in Surtain and J.C. Horn, I think 11's right in their wheelhouse to take whoever the Cowboys don't take.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, I think it's really everything past their defensive line. They really need help. So moving on. So who do you have the Vikings going with at 14?
I'm torn between Vera Tucker and Darisaw as the 3rd best offensive tackle on the board. I just think they're so different in play style that it depends on scheme fit, like I said earlier. But I have the Vikings going with Vera Tucker purely based off of the versatility.
All right, I like that. I'm gonna be completely honest. I had no idea where to go with this pick.
Yeah,
I really didn't. I was kind of relying on Pro Football Focus here. Probably wasn't the right move. I'm going with Tevin Jenkins, the offensive tackle from Oklahoma State. Originally today, I was thinking maybe Minnesota trades up with Denver, and Denver moves down. But then I realized the Bridgewater contract doesn't really have any bearing past this season. I kind of did like seeing, or having the idea of Minnesota trading up for Trey Lance. More mobile of a quarterback, better than Kirk Cousins. And then you have Thielen and Jefferson, Dalvin and Madison in the backfield. I feel like that would be a great offense. But that's not the case here. Tevin Jenkins, I feel like he's a guy that not a lot of guys a lot of people are talking about. I feel like a lot of people realize that this is a deep, offensive line draft. And I read he was maybe one of the best finishers in this class. And that's what you need at that position. I'm not going to say that you need to protect Kirk Cousins at all costs because he's not like a young guy that like if he gets hurt you're screwed. But Tevin Jenkins plays with a mean streak. Good athleticism. I feel like he fits in that system well, and they desperately need a tackle. And they just do. I don't really know about Vera Tucker. I'm kind of up in the air with him. I actually have him going a lot later. We'll see. Honestly, I really didn't know what to do.
Yeah, no, I don't hate the Tevin Jenkins pick. I only have him going a couple spots later. But like you said, they don't really need to protect Kirk Cousins at all costs, but their backfield is very valuable. Yep. And I think that's one of the main reasons they'll take O-line. These second-tier O-line, they got me confused between Vera Tucker, Darisaw, and Jenkins. I have them all kind of going in the same range, but I don't really know. I don't have necessarily an opinion on one or the other in terms of not like it's not like I'm running a team. Like, I don't know what they're looking for. So I'm kind of stuck on that. But, yeah, all 3 good players.
Yeah, I think, the linemen, I look at it, there's just a lot of guys that look pretty decent, like, all the way through the 2nd and 3rd round. So I feel like I maybe should have, put that together because, like, maybe you don't go offensive line 1st round. Maybe there's a guy that they like in the 2nd or 3rd round value, and they go with a completely different position. We don't really know. Like you just said, we're not the GMs. We're not the one drafting these guys. We're just predicting, and we're not even in college yet. So at 15, I think this is like inevitable. Whether they trade up and get him or they just sit right at 15. I don't think I didn't say this. I don't think Minnesota would take Mac Jones because that's who we're talking about right now. I don't think they would take Mac Jones. That's not really I just feel like that offense stays too stagnant at that point. Like Mac Jones and Kirk Cousins, like I guess Kirk Cousins has a stronger arm and Mac Jones might be a little smarter, but I don't see a big difference in that offense. I think if they're just going to need to make a huge jump if they need to. Um, that's why I was thinking maybe Trey Lance. But yeah, New England going with Mac Jones, you know, good IQ. Cam's not the guy there, and a lot of people say that he reminds them of Brady, more of a pocket passer. You don't really see too many pocket passers nowadays coming out of the draft. I mean, the other four guys ahead of him are not pocket passers, and you look in the past couple of years, everyone can move around. So I have Mac Jones going to New England. What do you have?
Yeah, me too. I had pretty much the same thing you had. I think it's inevitable whether it's trade up or right where they're at. Cam's a fill-in. He's not the long-term solution. So if they see it in Mac Jones, then I could see it. But also that clip of Belichick at the pro day shaking his head, that could be a typical Belichick like plot to like make it look like he's not on him when he is.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, this fit, it just seems too good to be true with them needing a long-term QB, especially if he falls. And I said if they don't draft him, they'll draft a defensive player projected to go in the third round that we've never heard of. Because honestly, that's what the Pats do. They're just, you never know what they're going to do. And I think if they don't go Mac, then we'll see a name that neither of us have on our first round board.
Yeah, I believe it Kyle Duggar last year.
Yeah, the D2 guy. Yeah.
Yep, the D2 guy. Right. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't really know. I don't really know how Mac Jones's game really translate. He might fit in the Belichick system, which might be good enough. But I don't know. I don't really
Big
know.
game experience is good, but that's the one thing that I see as like a true positive if he goes to a big market type team. He already played at Alabama with the best of the best, and that won't intimidate him.
Yeah, I mean that offensive line was disgusting, and the receiving core was disgusting, and then not to mention his running back was even more disgusting. So he was really putting, he was given everything, diamonds and platinum, whatever. 16. Who do you have going to the Cards?
I have Darisaw. I think this would be a great fit for them, protecting their superstar QB and another star-studded offense. And I think if Darisaw isn't available and they don't like Jenkins or Vera Tucker or whoever else on the offensive line, I think D-line is also another possibility. They could go with that guy out of Bama, Barmore.
Barmore,
But
yeah.
that was the other alternate route I had them going. What did you have?
So I went with J.C. Horn. I feel like this would be a great value right here. I think this is an absolute steal in my opinion. And Arizona hasn't really had a lockdown corner since Patrick Peterson's prime days. I feel like it's way out of Patrick Peterson nowadays. He's not nearly the same guy. I feel like he hasn't been the same guy in like 4 or 5 years, but he's still portrayed as one of the best. I know it's a very up and down opinion for most people. I just think J.C. Horn fits right in. They picked up Malcolm Butler, and they still have Robert Alford, but this isn't 2016. Like they need to go get someone who's going to step in, make an impact, and I think Horn's just a beast. You look at their other team needs, tight end, interior D line. You're not going to get a tight end here, and the interior D line, I believe there's like one. So
that's what I'm saying. It's the only one, Barmore.
It's either Barmore, whatever, or J.C. Horn, and J.C. Horn is better value at that pick, and I don't see how you take a defensive tackle over a corner. I don't see it.
I would be shocked if Horn fell this far, and I would be stoked if I was a Cardinals fan to see him there at 16. That was great. I like that.
Yep. So 17 comes around. I was about to say Oakland. It's actually Las Vegas now. I have them going. I've been looking around at their roster. I think they need interior D line. I think this is where you get Barmore. I don't really. I mean, this guy, he showed flashes of being like super good in 2019, and then 2020 came and he had 8 sacks, 27 hurries. I mean, that looks pretty good. I mean, he was a sophomore, 6'5", 310. 27 hurries, 8 sacks. I mean, I know I just said that, 90 PFF rating. Uh, he had a 92.2 rating versus Notre Dame, who had one of the most experienced and most bulked up offensive lines in all of college football. I just think right here, like John Gruden's just gonna make a John Gruden pick and just try to get the big guy. So let's go Barnmore.
I got you. I went with Tevin Jenkins, who you had a couple picks before. We were talking. He's kind of a reach, but I feel like John Gruden usually reaches for who he wants. And I think if Barmore goes earlier, this could be another option for him. But either way, they're in a good spot to pick up one of two key needs. They lost Trent Brown, so they do need a tackle, and I think they'll have an option of filling one of these two needs at pick 17.
Yep, I agree with you there. All right, so we move on. We go to 18. I feel like the Dolphins have 2 first-round picks every single year. What do you got at 18?
18, I have Rashad Bateman. I went O-line with them at 6. Right. And I think if Bateman's here at 18, that's another huge weapon. He's very underrated. He's probably one of my favorite players in the draft. I was a big Michigan fan, and I was watching their week 1 game against Minnesota, and I was talking to my buddy, and it was just like, he's going to be a player for years to come. And with Parker and Fuller, like we touched on earlier, both injury-plagued careers. Fuller, this seemed like his first year healthy, Fuller, and then the whole PED thing at the end. He's never really fully stayed on the field. So depth is definitely needed. And this is the ideal draft for the Dolphins, in my opinion, addressing the trenches and a weapon for Tua in the first round.
I like that. I was thinking maybe they try to turn heads. Maybe they go defense with their first pick and grab Najee Harris. Maybe, I don't know. I just feel like that'd be kind of crazy. I don't know. I don't know. It was just crossing my mind. But I have you may be able to help me out here. Kwity Paye.
Yeah.
Okay, that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So this guy, a hand timed 40, so it might be a little off. We're at a 4.52. I'd say that's pretty damn good for a 6'4", 272-pound defensive end. I just think this is the right pick for them there. They have Christian Wilkins, right? So he does 36 benches of 225. That's just another thing. He's just like Pro Football Focus describes him as being built different. I mean, when you're using those terms on this kind of website, I mean, this guy looks really good. Didn't turn in enough sacks. Over the 2020 was shortened for him. Battled an injury, but 2018, 2019 combined 7 sacks, but 37 hurries. I just think he's going to step it up when he gets to the league and be their guy.
Yeah, I was going to say before you mentioned all that, he's a terrific run defender. Mm-hmm. That is his strength. He's so good at run defense. Mm-hmm. And I think if he gets to the league and develops that pass rush, he's going to be a force. So, yeah, I do like that pick. Very solid for them.
All right, so we go 19, and this is the Washington football team. I have Rashad Bateman going here. I just really like the thought of, you have you bring in Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? I kind of love that move. I don't know. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I met him a couple, I'd say 5 years ago. Great guy. But I just feel like he always steps up when you need him. He's never gotten to a playoff game, well, in recent memory, and never memory. I don't think he's ever been. I would really like him to go to Washington. Although I'm a Giants fan, I wouldn't mind it. And you pair Bateman up alongside McLaurin and Curtis Samuel. I think that's dirty. I think that's completely unfair. Bateman, I've been on the Bateman to Washington train for a while. I saw Bateman I used to run a college football account. I saw Bateman make this insane catch. I remember posting it, and he got so many views. And I was like, all right, this guy's real. I remember seeing him play in 19 and 18, so I've seen this guy play for a while, and I think he's a perfect fit in Washington.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot. Like I said, he's torched Michigan for a couple of years. He's a great player. And if he was available at 19, I think that offense would be nasty. I have Bateman going 18, like I just mentioned. And if that was the case, I couldn't really see them doing Tony or Rondell Moore with already having or signing Curtis Samuel. So I just went defense here. I went Jeremiah Owusu Koromora. The guy, he's a beast. He's another one of thank you. I'm not a big pronunciation guy. That was tough for me. But yeah, no, I think the guy's a stud. And when you have a stacked defense like that and the weapon you want is off the board, I think you just go richer, get rich, get richer.
Yep.
The linebackers are the weakest out of their 3 units. In my opinion, I was looking at the depth charts, and I think adding a guy like Jeremiah to this defense would make them even better.
Yep. I respect that totally. We move on. Who do you have Chicago, unless you want me to take this, who do you have Chicago going at 20?
I have a hunch with Chicago. I think I could see a Fields trade up coming. I really do. They have Andy Dalton currently.
QB1.
QB1. It's all over Twitter. Must be a real thing. No, I don't think they can't do that. I think if they can make a Fields trade up happen, I think they should. But if not, I have Caleb Farley. Simply, they released Kyle Fuller. And they need a DB. He's major injury risk, but his upside is there for sure. I want the Jets to get him at 23. I've heard some things that turn me away from that. They're going to address DBs in round 2, but any team need a DB in the 20s, early late 20s. Farley's your guy if you want to win. He's a stud.
Yep. You really just ate up what I was gonna say. Yeah, I don't see. I would say that it's probably most logical for them to go trade up for a quarterback unless they run the read option package with maybe Andy Dalton and Nick Foles. Maybe throw off the defenses a bit. I don't know.
Philly special. Let's run it back.
Special. So last year Chicago made a great pick, scooped up Jalen Johnson, had a great rookie season. Their safeties, you got Eddie Jackson, stud. Sean Gibson was once a stud. Their linebackers of Quinn Trevathe and Roquan Smith and Khalil Mack. And then you got Goldman and Hicks up front. It's still one of the best defenses in the NFL. So why not, get better? And they got rid of Kyle Fuller and brought in Desmond Trufant, who I think's one of the worst in my opinion. That guy's toast. So let's bring in Caleb Farley. I know he had that back surgery, but I think it's worth the risk, especially with how good that defense is. Even if he doesn't step in and play and you can't trade up, just roll with Farley.
Yeah, when you're a defense where it's not like they have to build it from the ground up. When you have a solidified core, that's when you go with the upside pick, and I just think it's a perfect match.
Yeah, totally. So we moved to 21. Indianapolis. I have Elijah Moore here. Speedster. And, that adds a different dimension to that offense. Paris Campbell's not Ohio State Paris Campbell. I think adding a guy like Elijah Moore, got the burners. You got a guy on the outside like Pittman, throw him in the slot, and you got Hilton on the outside as well. I just think it all works out, and you need to get Carson Wentz some weapons because, this is really a put up or shut up year for him, and they're going to get a lot of heat if he does not play well.
Yeah, very true, very true. Elijah Moore, he plays very physical. We talked about playing bigger than your size with Devontae Smith. He's just a physical. He's going to eat targets, and I think that would be a great addition to Indianapolis. I actually have them going one pick later to Tennessee, but we'll get into that. I had them going edge here with Jalen Phillips. He's another guy with injury risk, but they're at the point, the Colts, where if they're going to go defense, you might as well take a risk on the highly talented guy who could potentially bring their defense to the next level because it's not like they're going to fall apart without Jalen Phillips this year on defense. But yeah, Moore is in a good spot for this mid-20s range, and I like where your head's at with Wentz. Get him another guy. We'll see.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting Wentz another guy. I thought Will Fuller was a potential landing spot, or Schuster, somebody to just add, and they didn't really add. So I don't think Pascal is going to do that job. So I think Elijah Moore is that guy. So 22 comes around. I had Greg Newsome the second. I can't really speak on him because I didn't really see him play at all. Went to Northwestern, but I was just really looking best available defensive back, cornerback. And you look at the corners in Tennessee, and it's just no good. Like, it's just not good at all. Janoris Jenkins and Chris Jackson. I'm sorry, I've never heard of Chris Jackson, but Janoris Jenkins is so washed at this point. They need a cornerback. I could just never see Greg Newsome play, and I know they need him. I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's a lanky guy. I believe he's 6'3". He's not the best. I mean, he's a little skinny, not the best at tackling. We don't know how that's going to translate. I feel like you can say that about a lot of DBs, though. Their strength isn't going to be tackling. They're not in the box. But, yeah, no, definitely a great pickup, a good need for them. I went with Elijah Moore here, another need for them after losing Corey Davis and Adam Humphries. They're just going to have a lot of targets up for grabs. A.J. Brown can't do it by himself. And Moore, like I said, is a physical guy who could play slot or outside and could easily be second on the team in targets from day one. So I just like the fit in terms of they need someone to catch the ball. Yeah. And I definitely – he's a candidate for sure.
Yeah, I do like Josh Reynolds, but they did pick him up in the slot. But I think Elijah Moore's ceiling is way higher than Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, I don't think that's the answer either. I agree.
23, I have a guy that you had going a couple picks, Jalen Phillips. I think he's very athletic. Just a all-around beast, in my opinion. I think he's a better edge rusher than Rousseau. Although Rousseau had more sacks, I like Phillips more. And I've been hearing about this kid for a long time. I don't know. I just think he's the move, and he won't have a turnover chain anymore if he goes to the Jets because they're not turning anybody over.
So. No, absolutely not. No, yeah, they're gonna go edge here.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna. I have him getting Kwity Paye. I just think his run stopping, bruising style fits Robert Saleh's defense super well. And like I said earlier, I heard they'll address DBs at day 2, which is the other option. I would like Newsome or Farley if they fall, but if both of them are gone, actually, honestly, either way, I think they're going to go edge, whether it be Jalen Phillips or Kwity Paye at 23. Something I did hear about the Jets is they love Travis Etienne and are potentially willing to change their draft plan if it means getting him at 23. I don't like it. He's the guy who's going to have a stat line of 12 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown, but that'll only be on days where he has a 75-yard touchdown, and then the rest is just not. I don't see – it's just in big games he disappeared, and I don't see how he projects that. I don't like it.
Yeah, so I'm just coming from a Clemson fan. When you say the big game, he kind of disappeared. This year, sure. 3 touchdowns against Alabama a couple national championships ago. He did have. I'll agree with the fact that he's a guy that just breaks a run and that's his day really. But there are some days where he's just 5 yards. Etienne, yeah, he kind of reminds me of Kamara. Kamara is obviously the more established, but I think Travis is similar play type. I don't really know. I think he can be an all right pro. I have him going later in my first round, but at 24, Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is a general consensus among a lot of people. I got Najee Harris.
Yeah, me too. It feels too obvious. That's what I wrote. I don't know what else to say. He's a workhorse, and that's what they need.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And at 25, we go Jacksonville. We're just going a little bit faster. Trayvon Moehrig. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I think this is a steal at 25. Jacksonville, a team that needs defense and has all that draft picks. I feel like this is a great pick after getting T-Law. Yeah, I just Trayvon, whatever. Go.
Yeah, no, I had Aziz Ojulari. I'm also in the same boat. They're just going to be looking for impact players on defense. I think him and Josh Allen would be fun. I could also see Barmore going here if he falls. But yeah, no, I like Morig. I didn't really find a fit in the in the back end of the first round. I was looking for one because me and my friend have been talking about him. He's a good player.
Yeah.
But I didn't really find one. I think he's a candidate to be a steal in the early second round. I feel like there's usually a couple kind of consensus first round picks that kind of fall out just purely based off team fit and personnel choices. So yeah, I went with the edge. I think the edge is going to be common in the back end of the first.
Yep. So 26, I have a guy that you also had going a little bit earlier. I feel like this is a trend. Jeremiah Owusu Karamoa, linebacker, Notre Dame. I think he's a guy that could also come off the edge, and especially when you got Myles Garrett, and Jadeveon Clowney, overrated, but Jadeveon Clowney. I think you could sneak JOK in there and get the job done. Their linebackers are thin. You have Taki, Anthony Walker. Taki, probably one of the best names in the NFL. I mean, really. Anthony Walker, Jacob Phillips. Like I think that the JOK is the fit there. Smart kid. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. He is a good player. I have the Browns going with Barmore. They cut Sheldon Richardson and they brought in Clowney. So I think when you have Garrett and Clowney, my gut tells me they're going to address another need in the first, maybe getting a high upside edge at some point in day 2. But yeah, I went with Barmore. He could go anywhere from late teens to late 20s, and I wouldn't be surprised. He's the best interior D lineman by far, and I think any team that needs that will be eager to scoop him up.
Yeah, whoever wants him, take him.
Exactly. He's like
Yeah, totally. So 27, Baltimore, one of their 2 first-round picks. Who do you have going to Baltimore at 27?
Yeah, well, I'm going with the tackle. I see you are too. I went Samuel Cosme out of Texas. With Orlando Brown traded, he's just the most experienced guy left. 1,500 pass blocking snaps and could step in and play day 1, which I think at the end of the day, that's what they're going to be looking for is experience. They don't want to regress with a rookie inexperienced tackle because they're in a window. I could also see him going receiver. They pick again at 31, and that's a very popular take for where they're going to go.
Yeah, I agree. I have Barrett. Sorry to cut you off. I have Barrett. I think this is kind of a steal in a way because he's falling that low. But then again, there aren't too many teams in between that really need tackles. Past Minnesota and the Chargers. So I think falling to 27, Jenkins or Tucker, it's a coin flip. And you can stick him right at that right tackle spot. I know Brown wanted to play left tackle and they wouldn't let him because Ronnie Stanley, I believe, they gave him that huge deal. So that's really why he's gone. 28, New Orleans. I had Asante Samuel going there. New Orleans, I mean, past Marshawn Lattimore, like their corners not looking good. They lost the All-Pro corner Janoris Jenkins. So I think they got to go young here. They went super young in 2017 or 2018 when they picked up Marcus Williams and Marshawn Lattimore and company. But I think they gotta get some fresh legs in there. And Asante Samuel is the guy, and he's probably got some good genes. Well, he sure does. What do you got at 28?
Yeah, I'm going DB too. I have Greg Newsome. I think if he's available, they'll go him. I like everything you said about them needing a DB. It's true. They don't have any other super glaring needs at the moment, and I think that's a good pick. Yeah.
Yeah, I think them losing Trey Hendrickson, maybe that could stunt them taking an edge. Maybe if like pay were to fall somehow, maybe that would
Yeah. Agreed.
They could also go receiver there. What's past Michael Thomas, and then what if Michael Thomas gets hurt? You got like Traquan Smith. I don't even know if he's still there.
I have no idea. That's true.
He's very thin. Unless you're going to call up Ted Ginn and get him out of retirement. I don't really know. But speaking of wide receivers, 29, I have Kadarius Toney going to Florida, going to Green Bay. I saw this guy play a couple games when I was just looking at how Trask was. and he was making his own plays. I think this is the year where the Packers finally give in and give Rodgers a target because they just have refused. And I think I want to say that Lazard's a free agent right now and he hasn't signed anywhere.
He was on the depth chart.
Oh, he was
for free.
I am not doing well today.
Nah, I mean, it is what it is. There's so many names, and we've been out of football for a couple months.
Yeah.
Some things get lost in the shuffle. But I remember I was gonna go receiver here, and then I saw that Lazard was still on the depth chart. So then I went a different route. They also just hate getting them weapons. So that's another thing.
I just think it would be an outrage if they didn't give him a wide receiver finally this year, especially when they're taking it 29. It's not like you're not going to get some stud defensive player or some stud other position. Like I just think you just have to go wide receiver here. It's like the place to take him.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. I have the Packers going Asante Samuel Jr. They hate getting Rodgers weapons. And it seemed to be a position of need, especially in the playoffs. That Bucks game, just a couple lapses that cost them big time.
Kevin King.
I think, the more DBs you get, the better for them. And I think 29 is good value for this guy.
Yep. All right. So moving on, 30. I got Travis Etienne going to the Buffalo Bills. I think this is like a great fit. Seeing Devin Motor Singletary going first, rookie year looked pretty good. He really did. And then he was really erased from the game plan last year. It was more Josh Allen. Actually, he was more erased from the game plan. Josh Allen just kept running. It looked like the short yard situations, they were going with Moss, which I thought was inevitable at the beginning of the year. I just thought that Moss was going to be the short yardage guy, and he was. But you add a guy like Travis Etienne in that backfield, it just adds, a change of pace. It, carries the weight off of Josh Allen. And like you said, he can get that he's a boom player. Like he can break off a big run, and I really think that's what like the Buffalo Bills need to beat like a team like the Chiefs. Just that one run, that's the difference in the game. I think Etienne's their guy.
When the Jets take him, we're gonna talk, and you're gonna talk me into him because I'm willing to be bargained, especially if they spend their first round pick on him.
Totally.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's a stud. I actually have the Bills going another weapon too. I have them going Rondell Moore, and I know how loaded the receiver room is. They have Diggs, Gabriel Davis, Cole Beasley, and the addition of Emmanuel Sanders. But defenses can't. Like, he would be in single coverage every time he's on the field, and you get Rondell Moore in space. You go back to that Ohio State game, his freshman year, like you can see he's the best player on the field when he has the ball in open space. And I just think that could be a route they go, and maybe address running back later, because that's what teams tend to do for the most part. We get all excited on these running backs, and then they fall, and it's just one of those. But yeah,
J.K. Dobbins.
That's right. Yeah,
bro, that was ridiculous. I knew that was a steal when the Ravens got him. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Rondell Moore could just blow the top off defenses, in and out, but he's very injury prone. I don't think he played last year.
Not much, very little, and he wasn't very effective. You could tell he wasn't 100% and was just trying to show his toughness. Yeah,
it's really a gamble pick there, but I think it's really the spot to do it. Like, you're gambling.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless you want to like trade that pick, I think you just gamble. 31. I'm going with Terrace. I thought it was Terrence. It's Terrace Marshall Jr. Yeah, it's Terrace. Like outside a window, I guess. LSU. He was really like buried under Chase and under Jefferson. And under Moss, even during the year where they were always on national television. Then last year when they really fell off, he was not getting nearly as much attention. He had a very good 2019 year, and he had a really good 2020 with like a lack of quarterback play, right? So I know it's crazy that the Ravens are going to draft a receiver over 6 foot, but I think it's finally the year where they do it, and they bring in Marshall, and he just makes an impact because they need to add something different other than Mark Andrews, because Mark Andrews, is not a wide receiver. He's a tight end for a reason. And Marshall adds a different, height differential, and will maybe, take some attention off Marquise Brown. So I think that's the pick. Willie Snead's not a number 2 wide receiver. So
not at all. Yeah, I was stuck on. This is the most stuck I've been between two players at completely different positions. I went with Greg Rousseau. How do I say it?
Yep. So
Rousseau. Yeah, they lost Yannick and Judon, which leaves a big hole in the front seven. And I think it's a high risk, high reward where you could step in and fill that role, or he could be terrible, and I wouldn't be surprised with either way. And then I had Terrace Marshall too. They need size at receiver. They signed Sammy Watkins, whopping 6'1". He's going to be the tallest receiver on that team. But they could go receiver. They could go Marshall right here, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. I think it's pick your poison type thing where whichever need they feel like they should address is the one they're going to take here at 31.
I mean, doing this is getting me ready for fantasy season because I'm just remembering.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. I was going through names and I was like taking mental notes. I was like, oh.
Yep. I literally, once baseball season hit, it's just in the football knowledge is slowly falling out. But 32, the Bucks. I got Azeez Ojulari, edge rusher from Georgia. Really past Barrett and JPP, there really isn't too much coming off that edge. So I think they take a chance here. I know they could go O-line because why not protect Brady some more? But why not add to the defense? That offense is already good enough. They even could take a receiver. Like if Moore fell down to them and they were running with Scotty Miller and Rondell Moore, I don't know, just a thought. But honestly, I just think Ojulari is just the guy there. And, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think they're going to go depth piece, whether it be edge, like you said, or I had O-line. I had Landon Dickerson out of Bama. When he stays on the field, he's a stud. Another guy I think the Jets might take falls to 34 in the second round. He's a very good interior O-line. Is he played a lot of center, right? Or was he at guard, kind of both? I was looking for the word versatile. It slipped me. We're on pick 32, long night. Yep. But yeah, no, either way they're going depth, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about, guys picks 20 through 32 because I really need to get a grasp on that
Sure.
Before they get in there. But I think we did it, and we went through all 32 picks. And
exactly, yeah, open discussion.
Yep. So I want to thank you guys all for listening and watching. Luke, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And yeah, thank you guys, and we'll catch you later. Peace.
Yep. Thanks for having me. I'll come on anytime you need.
Gotcha.
Yep. Later.